Was there a time when things began to change, where Lyle Menendez, in your mind, became protective of you?
Yes, when my father took my brother and I out on the lake. We lived on a large lake that had a narrow beginning and then went into a wide circle, and my brother and myself and my father were out in a very small sunfish sailboat, and he would sail out to the middle of the lake, and on the way my father would tell stories about the snapping turtles in the lake, and the little ones and the big ones. And when we got to the lake, my father wanted us to swim to shore, practice being able to swim the distance. It was a far distance. And so he ordered my brother out of the boat, and my brother was reluctant, but since my dad ordered him out of the boat, he went out of the boat, and I began to cry. I was afraid to go out of the boat. So my father pushed me out of the boat and sailed on. And Lyle was a faster swimmer and 3 years older and further ahead and was closer to shore. And so I started swimming to shore. And about halfway there, 3/4 of the way there, I was beginning to panic, and I was beginning to take in water and swallow water. And I wasn't going to make it. I was going down, and I would flap my arms and yell for help. And my brother, who was on the shore, swam back into the lake and grabbed me and pulled me toward the shore.
He saved your life.
Yes.
Now, do you have a vision in your mind of what this lake looks like?
Yes.
Was this just a small little pond or a body of water?
No. It was a large lake that a lot of houses were on that had a dam at the end of it, in which the water would flow over and it went off into several directions, sort of a big pool with small little lakes or two small lakes going off of it.
How wide would you say it was across?
I remember it being huge, half-mile.
Was it the kind of shallow little pond where you could at any time stand up in it?
No.
If you tried, would the water be over your head?
I'm sure the depth was 30-40 feet.
What kind of boats go on the lake?
Big and small. Catamarans, sailboats.
ND, where were you in relationship to the shore when your father told you to go swim to shore?
100 feet, 150 feet offshore.
And he wanted you not to swim back to where you had come from, but to the other side.
He dropped us off in the middle of the lake, in the center, so that we would have no choice but to swim to one of the shores. And he wanted me to swim to shore.
And you believed that there were snapping turtles in the water?
There were snapping turtles. The stories were true that he was telling.
So this got kind of a muddy bottom. It's a real lake.
Yes.
What happened after Lyle Menendez pulled you to shore?
My father came over and was in a rage that my brother had saved me when my father felt I would have made it. And my brother said I wasn't going to make it. And he grabbed Lyle, put him back in the boat, put me back in the boat, and sailed out to shore. Sailed out from shore again to the middle of the lake.
Were you crying?
I don't remember. I was crying when I was swimming. I don't remember if I was crying at that time.
Did you know what was going to happen when your father put you back in the boat?
I had a bad feeling.
And what happened?
He made Lyle swim to one shore, and when Lyle was about halfway there, he ordered me to swim to the opposite shore.
Made Lyle swim to the other shore that you had to swim to?
Yes.
And that was so he couldn't help you?
Yes.
Were there other incidents that you could describe where similar heaps of events occurred between your father and Lyle Menendez and yourself?
Yes. There was a time we had a canoe and a sailboat, and we had to make sure that they were tied up to a tree because the current would drag the boats away. Different people had a dock, we didn't. And one day, I guess it was in the summer, I was out in the canoe, and I came back, and it was a windy day, and I think there was a storm coming. Anyway, I tied up the canoe, and I didn't tie it up well enough, and the canoe started. By the time I saw it again, it was at the end of the lake.
What happened?
I went to my brother, and I was crying, and I was panicking, and I was saying, I got to get the canoe. And he said, Dad's going to be home any second. And I started to shake because I knew what was going to happen.
In your mind, what was going to happen?
I was going to get beaten or whipped.
Why would you possibly believe that your father would beat or whip you for that?
Just what my dad did.
Did when?
Throughout my life.
Go ahead.
And so I'm sort of out by the sunfish thinking of some type of reason I can give to him of why I didn't tie the boat well enough. And I went back up into the boat, up into the house. And at some point my brother had had a conversation with my dad and had told my dad that he was the one that didn't tie up the canoe and that the canoe had drifted down because it was his fault. And I remember being in my room and hearing the sound of the belt and just feeling a great sense of relief and pain, and I guess happiness, because I was beginning to realize that Lyle really loved me.
Did you ask Lyle Menendez to take the blame for you?
No,
Did you ask Lyle Menendez to take a beating for you?
no. Time when I was spray painting my bicycle and didn't realize that my bike was a little bit too close to the car, and I'd gotten spray paint on the car, and there was sort of the outline of the bike or spray paint on the car. And I went to Lyle and I said, what am I going to do? I've got to clean this off. And I had already tried sort of brush that wiped away the paint of the car along with the spray paint and made a big mark on the car. The paint had come off, and Lyle had told Dad that he was the one that did that when Dad finally got home.
What kinds of things did your mother do to scare you?
To scare me, or that scared me?
That scared you?
She would drink a lot and...
Alcohol.
Yes. It was a scary situation in the house when Mom was drinking because she would get angry, or even when she wasn't drinking, she would go into a rage about something or other. And if you were in front of her, you could get hit. And if that was going to happen to me, Lyle many, many times stepped in front of me so that my mom hit him instead, and other things like that.